This happens. Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from Sweden, and welcome to the right StreamYard link that we're streaming on from now on. We had a little introduction on the test link, and now we're live on tape. No, we're live in this right event, and you are listening to How to Build Your Business Case for Automated Social Recruitment Marketing with Matt Alder and Adway, and I'm very happy to have you guys with us. We're about 10 minutes behind, but we'll catch back basically. So today is my last live for the season, and we have over 1,800 signups for this live stream with the one and only mastermind in TA, Matt Alder. So everyone, please get settled on this link. Remember to comment summary to again fetch the full summary guide covering all the data, stats, insights, links, everything from this insightful session. And we will get started. So Matt, the trailblazer, the powerhouse, the #1 Yoda guru in recruitment marketing and talent acquisition, can you please introduce us again? Who are you, and what is the universe of Matt Alder?
Yeah, absolutely. So, hi everyone. Great to be at the event. Great to be live. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm Matt. I run the Recruiting Future podcast, and I've been running that podcast for 8 years now. We're over 500 episodes. I'm supremely grateful to the very clever, insightful guests that I have come on and share their knowledge. I'm going to call out some of them as we go through the conversation, because I really want people to, sort of dig in and get a sense of what different practitioners are doing in this space. Before I did the podcast, I worked in recruitment marketing for a very long time, and
you can say it. You can say
I'm not
it.
going to say how long. Oh, no. I stop counting after a certain amount. It's only polite to do so. And I've been fascinated by how recruitment marketing has evolved over the last couple of decades. And I think that we are in such an interesting place now with the access to the technology and the expertise that we have. So it's a great time to be involved in recruitment marketing.
100%. And you know, this is my favorite topic outside of Swedish House Mafia. So I might be fangirling a bit too much here, Matt, but you are the ultimate Yoda for us. We've been following you for years. And anyone who hasn't discovered, which is weird, Matt yet, you need to follow the newsletter, you need to follow his podcast, and make sure to always keep up with him on LinkedIn. So Matt, since we're some minutes behind, it's not too much, but we'll keep the steady pace in this live stream. And everyone, again, all the insightful knowledge will come in the summary. So please comment, you're not missing out on it. But Matt, you make a strong argument that these days that social recruiting and employer branding has never been more important than in these disruptive times. But in general, could you just shortly give us the perspective that you're coming from with this?
Yeah, I think there are three elements to this. The first one is we have to talk about the market disruption. Now, in the past, we've always been through cycles. The economy's been up, hiring's been up, recruitment marketing's been up. The economy's down, hiring's down, recruitment marketing's down. What's changed is we're now going through these cycles very, very quickly. So we're in very volatile times. Over the last 2 years, we've been through 3. There was a drop-off at the beginning of the pandemic. There was an enormous peak as we came out of the pandemic. And now we're kind of in this very, very strange state where in some markets and some companies, still a massive drive for talent where there are shortages or companies are evolving what they do. On the other hand, you have companies, making layoffs and scaling back their recruitment. And I think that the message here is that things change very, very quickly. So being consistent with the way that you do recruitment marketing through this that's where the competitive advantage is going to come from. When that cycle turns again, it's the companies that have been marketing through it are going to be the early winners. And that was always the case, but things are changing very quickly.
That's a quote. It's the competitive advantage if you keep steady on your strategy throughout all of these different periods of time.
Absolutely. And that's easier said than done. And I'm sure that we'll come on to, talking about the mechanics of business cases around that and all that sort of stuff. That's one area. The other area, which I know we'll dive into a bit more, is internal pressures. So with the with the rise of generative AI, every company is looking for efficiencies. And these are coming from the top down. These are coming from the leadership teams at organizations who are asking the individual divisions and departments where the efficiency is coming from. Now, the advantage, I think, of using automated, social recruiting marketing technology is, for many, many years, recruitment marketing has, in terms of sophistication and sort of technical excellence, has lagged behind the rest of marketing. And I think now the tools are kind of bang on where everyone else is. So if you're using this kind of approach, you are talking the same language as the marketing teams within your organization. You have more data. And I think that gives you a much stronger way of making cases internally because of the level of sophistication within the tools.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's the second one. And then the third one is the talent themselves. As we said, the world is disrupting at the moment. Organizations are looking for different skills. They're going to be looking for different skills in the future. With the downturn in the economy, people are less likely to change jobs. So you have to persuade people over potentially long periods of time, and building long-term pipelines using consistent automated marketing is an important part of that. If you're a company that's laying people off, what about rebuilding your reputation? Because you're still going to be hiring people now and in the future. To call out one of my podcasts a couple of weeks ago, I had employer branding expert Emilie Firth on the podcast, episode 521, and we were talking about how you use transparency and authenticity and consistency to rebuild your employer brand. I think the other thing is that there is no seasonality anymore in all of this, in the part because of the way that people consume media. So if I think back a very long time ago, it used to be very tricky, because we're coming into the summer now, so it's probably worth saying this. Traditionally, there was not much recruitment marketing was done over the summer, because the thought was that people are on holiday, they're not going to read the classified ad sections of newspapers or be on job boards or all that kind of stuff. But your audience is on social media all the time, regardless of what they're doing, whether they're on holiday or...
Especially in the summer, I'd say, though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I see this with my podcast as well. My podcast traffic doesn't dip over the summer. In fact, August is always the most traffic month. So in terms of consistency throughout the year, there is no seasonality in recruitment marketing anymore. And I think that's another important point in terms of consistency, and just sort of doing
and always
this
on, basically. It's a great argument. I mean, you will definitely have different messaging or different needs, but the strategy needs to be always on, because the passive talent market, you have to always be selling to. It's the
absolutely. And I think that the other aspect of that is probably worth sort of talking about right now, and it comes back to that rebuilding your reputation, building these pipelines. You have to have a strategy around the authenticity and creativity and persuasion in all of this. Just kind of feeding the machine with poor copy and bad content's not going to work. I think we need to imagine that we're in a world, even if we're not quite there yet, where everyone has access to AI tools that are building content for them. And it's like, how do you stand out? How do you stand out in a world where everyone has access to these tools? And it's that element of authenticity and creativity and the strategy that you put behind all this that's just incredibly important.
Exactly. I couldn't say it better myself. But if you were to, on the first question, how to actually build your business case for automated social group marketing, how would you go about internally? If you were a TA professional right now, how would you start approaching this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's very well for me to come on and say you need to be continually advertising all the time, regardless of what's going on in your business. It's really important to contextualize that. Now, I'm going to call out another podcast, because this has been one of my favorite episodes for quite some time. It's episode 499, so one before the 500th one. And I spoke to Graham Paxton from a consultancy called 𝗕𝗏, and he probably put one of the best cases that I've ever heard for how TA can be strategic within the business. So let's pull that back to let's pull that back to kind of social recruitment marketing and all those kind of things. So one of the great things about using technology to do this is the amount of data and optimization and everything that you have access to. Having access to the data is one thing. Making that data make a compelling business case is another thing. And I think it's taken a step back from that and really thinking about, and this is what Graham talks about in this particular episode, how do you align what you measure and how you talk about that with the objectives of the business? Ooh. So one of the examples that he gives is, what's the 5-year plan for your business? What kind of skills will your business need to deliver that 5-year plan? And then how can you bring that back to the metrics that you've got, either talent intelligence metrics about the marketplace and the addressable market of talent in those areas, but also what you're getting in terms of the metrics that are coming from your recruitment marketing. So that's an important part of it. And I think that recruitment marketing is part of a larger strategy, but it's probably the one area now where you can just get huge amounts of data. And I think how you use that data is incredibly important. And I've got another interview that I think will help people, which is episode 490, which is an interview with Jane Curran, who's the global head of talent acquisition at JLL. And she talks about building those stakeholder relationships, building relationships with finance, using data to push back and say, well, do we really need to hire these people? And maybe we should hire these people. So I think it's kind of taking those business objectives within the organization and then tracking that back to the data that the data that your marketing is giving you, and
I would take it further though, because the data your recruitment marketing is giving you is most likely recruitment metrics or marketing metrics. But how would you, Matt, recommend that you tie this into revenue growth or business OKRs? That's the next strategic level you have to take.
And I think that's that is gonna be different for every business. I think the point that I'm making is, if you aren't using, these kind of automated marketing tools, and obviously using them in the right way, where you're standing out and connecting and engaging with your audience, that's just data that you don't have. And this data is giving you feedback about where the market is, what the market's doing, what your employer brand's doing. Are people applying to your jobs? Where are they dropping out of the process?
Exactly.
All of these things are data about, there's data about your marketing strategy, but also about your organization's standing in the market, the availability of talent. And it's part of the picture. It's part of a very big picture, but that's the kind of data and kind of metrics that you can use to improve your recruitment process, make a business case. And I think that it's just brilliant that technology is now available to provide that kind of data from marketing, because in the past it never was.
It was on like several different systems, right? Now you can, if you work smart, you can really aggregate and get the full basically picture from all your systems in talent. So yeah, absolutely. So the ones, if you were to recommend the ones struggling to make this a reality, where would you see people go wrong, where they try to position themselves internally as a TA function and not getting this strategic approach? Where would you recommend to do?
Again, it's different. It's different for every business, but I think it really is. It really is about kind of understanding those metrics and tying them together. It's really interesting to see that in larger organizations, we're seeing the emergence of talent intelligence and talent operations, where people are kind of really understanding the importance of this and sort of presenting those cases presenting those cases across. So, it is different from every organization. I think it's impossible to make to make generalizations. But I think that, if you're just starting out with this, it's that ability to speak the language of marketing, because
Absolutely.
one of the things that Graham says in episode 499 is just how the marketing department within organizations has lifted itself right up to the kind of the leadership level by cleverly using data and metrics and analytics. And I think that is what TA needs to think about. Where is our data? How do we get more of it? And how do we craft that into something that makes sense within our organization?
Yeah. And we always say that utilize the vendors, make sure the vendors help you gather, aggregate, or collect the data that you need to actually help build these business cases. You can really utilize all the smart vendors out there in automated social recruitment marketing. And we have Adways linking all these podcast episodes in the comment section here as well, Matt, so everyone can have a great listen and really deep dive into these arguments. And on the topic here, Matt, we will go a few more minutes over, and then we'll end with some questions. And I will just recommend everyone to comment summary to access the full summary from the 2 sessions that we've now had. In terms of focusing on providing revenue and business growth for TA and EB leaders, in terms of just like not just aggregating, but how would you say the shift now is happening in our industry? The ones not talking this lingo are not even relevant, I'd say. There's a case where we are communicating that TA and EB leaders need to prove or keep their seat at the table. So with this data, how do you approach each stakeholder internally to actually make yourself a revenue driving function?
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to what I just said. I think it's very difficult to again, it's kind of very difficult to generalize. I think it's very much thinking about the importance of talent to your business. What does it mean? What does it mean?
2, 3, 5 years ahead to just
exactly. But also it means, what does it mean not to have people in those, roles?
Exactly.
And also I think there's a thing about how quickly can you get from when people apply to when they actually start, start within a business. So I think, again, it's that kind of understanding of everything that's going on. What I think has been really interesting over the last year or so is in a lot of organizations, there's a lot more transparency between talent acquisition, talent management, learning and development, and looking at talent in a much more holistic way, in terms of really understanding the importance of certain skills to the business and how you can get those skills. So it's almost, it's looking at that, what the business needs, and it's kind of like, well, can we train people to do this, or do we actually need to make some very important hires? And if we want to make those important hires, we need to have done all the things that we've talked about. We need to have this, consistent message, employer brand message. We need to have built pipelines, all those kind of things.
And before this show, Matt, because I really wanted to feed in some data in the strategy of how you build your business case, just given the fact, if you were to implement a more automated and intelligent strategy to recruitment marketing, as we do with Adway, our internal data says that by doing this, you can decrease time to hire, as you were on to, by an average of 8 days. We boost fill rate by 27%. We can elevate applicant quality by 28% and 84% increase in relevant applications, all the while enjoying cost reduction to a ragging 33 in between 33 and 93%. So it's all down to efficiency and making sure that you implement data and strategy and automation in the candidate journey where it's needed, and really make sure that the human imprint is made where that is needed. So it's down to calculate, where do we need the heavy lifting experience from automation and smart tools, and where should our people spend their time? And I guess you get these questions a lot, Matt, but it's not about being an AI engineer or a data engineer in TA, but you have to be tech curious and tech comfortable in order to really make sense in this industry.
I think that's interesting in terms of technology. you know, I don't even think it's being comfortable or curious. It's like you have to have those skills in your team. And I've mentioned, you know, talent operations a little bit earlier. I've actually got an interview with talent operations chap called Mark Jenkins in episode 493, where we're
Nice.
talking about that kind of role. And I'm actually doing an interview tomorrow with someone who is kind of in-house tech within talent acquisition. So, you know, everyone needs to understand these tools. Everyone needs to understand technology strategically. And I think that's a difference, because I think there's a lot of advice and comment online that you know, people need to get hands on with the tools. And I agree with that. I think you need to use some of these things to really understand how they work. But you also have to take a step back and think about the strategy that sits behind technology and really sort of nail that. So I think it's a combination of thinking very strategically, but also having you know, specific technical and marketing skills on your team if you you know, if you have a team that's big enough for that. Because, you know, this is what the future looks like. The future is technology and optimization, and the human balance is really interesting, because I'm sort of fascinated by personalization within the, you know, within the recruiting process,
which is a big aspect. With the data, personalization is everything that you need.
Yeah, and that's only achieved through technology and automation at scale. And you know, there were really interesting conversations about you know, candidate experience design
Exactly. Yes.
and, you know, enabling humans and all these kind of things. So really having a core understanding of where technology is going and where it can take you strategically, to me, is just vital. Getting hands on with the tools is great and is important as well, but I think we need to change the emphasis in the conversation that goes on across all the channels to be less about the tactics and more about the strategy.
Absolutely, absolutely. And with your great knowledge, I will not touch upon how many years of great knowledge you sit on, but like the coming years in terms of recruitment marketing and, you know, implementing social media to it, like where do you see this taking off? Like if anyone haven't started yet, what are you seeing, given that you talk to so many experts in this area?
Yeah, I think it's a case of thinking about where the trends that we're seeing now taking us. So, you know, let's take AI, for example. You know, to a lot of extent, so a lot of the AI technology that we have has been, you know, baked into quite a few systems that are out there for some time.
True.
However, we're really only very much at the start of that. And you know, talking to vendors, established vendors who are looking at what generative AI can bring to the experiences that they build and the things that they facilitate, you know, I think that's incredible. And I think that you know, when we deal with AI in a much more specific way, it's going to be incredibly powerful. So I think we can expect much more automation. Really need to understand personalization. Need to be much more tech and data savvy, but at the same time, there's this whole thing about, you know, behavioral science and human experience design. And as I said right at the beginning, you know, creativity. How do you stand out?
Yeah.
How do you bring a layer of creativity to things that isn't AI generated, that
Exactly.
everyone else doesn't have access to? I think
Exactly.
that to me is the critical thing.
And for us, it is all about authenticity with the right strategy behind it. So making sure it is your people, not any polished EB campaigns, nothing of that. Make sure your people is in all the content, but utilize AI and tools and automation for the heavy lifting in terms of getting the right message out with the timing. That's where we're really seeing, you know, high engagement, because people are looking for the real deal here.
Absolutely.
So that's great, Matt. And again, we will keep feeding in all our knowledge to help you guys build your business case on automated social group marketing in the summary. So keep commenting summary, and that will be yours. And in terms of when we just like quickly touch upon rec and staff, Matt, it's like the most competitive market there is out there. Have you any angles or like advice into recruitment marketing at this time for rec and staff agencies? What are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you know, a lot of the things that we've been talking about in terms of building business cases and all those kind of things is it's just much more straightforward in that part of the industry, because you can you can tie recruitment marketing metrics directly to, you know, things like revenue and all those kind of things. So I think that from that aspect, it's an absolute no-brainer to, you know, have this kind of level of sophistication, to be reaching out continually to the market and having that presence, because you know, it's very noisy out there. You know, social is very, very noisy, but that's where your audience is. And I think that you know, if you're an agency, really kind of honing the sophistication of your marketing is really going to drive value for your business, but also drive value for the, you know, for the talent and, you know, that you deal with,
And
and
the
the
customers,
clients that you, and of course the customers that you,
the clients, the talent,
the customers that you have. So, you know, I would expect that the recruitment agencies that are super successful in the future are the ones who are most sophisticated about their marketing.
Oof, I love that. And to wrap this up, Matt, if we were to just give us, well, out of the blue, your most important takeaways with all your knowledge, with everyone you've been talking about for this case, what is your main takeaways to make sure you are building a resilient strategy, making sure you are future-proofed and ready to keep attracting passive talent? What would you give in advice?
My biggest takeaway has been the same for about 18 months now, which is personalization. To me, personalization driven by automation and technology is where we need to be going as an industry. It improves the candidate experience. It provides data that builds business cases. It improves the recruiter experience. It improves the hiring manager experience. And I think if you make that the North Star of your recruitment marketing efforts, I don't think you're going to go far wrong.
I love that. I love that. And feel free to reach out to Matt or us at Adway if you have any questions on how to enable this. I would just like to say, I don't know if you're coming, Matt, but what's happening now with Adway is that we have our Adway After Work Spill the TA in London next week. So drinks on us. We're at the Folly. It's going to be crowded. Hopefully, Matt, if you have the time, we can see you there and everyone else in our London community. And otherwise, we will make sure that everyone watching this stream will get the summary. Hopefully, Matt, we have more cool collaborations coming in the future. But for everyone watching, we're so thankful to have you here. Sorry about the big miscommunication in the intro, but we'll fix it. And Matt, thank you for being the voice, the Yoda, the TA guru, the powerhouse that you are. And everyone keep following Matt and the podcast, because that is the biggest source of knowledge we could ever have. I'm so thankful to have you on the show, Matt.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. See you in the summary, everyone. Have a great day.